Hello everybody, hope you're doing marvellously well. Those of you that follow us will know we have two studios we work from. Most of the time I'm at Spitfire, but part of the time I'm here at Harmony. And what is wonderful is over the last few weeks we have upgraded the whole setup at Harmony. So now we're going to show you what we've done. Not only am I going to show you what we've done, we've been filming the install. So I fortunately was away for the first part of the install because it was the console. It was an Audient 8024. So let's go and check out the studio. As you can see, I've worked on a lot of records here over the years. This is a combination of stuff that we've done here and I've worked on separately. As you know, I've done the work with the Fray. I also did Chris Allen, his first album after he won American Idol. The Sarah Bareilles actually belongs to a friend of mine who I run the studio with. He worked actually as an A&R guy on both those two records, although I did consult on one of those albums, in fact, maybe both. The script I worked on, remember The Man Who Can't Be Moved? I worked on the version that was the radio version. So Michael Jackson belongs to Flynn, the co-owner here with me. There's also a Beck one over there. Miley Cyrus wrote Wrecking Ball here and recorded all the basics to that. And then the Fray, of course, I did. Adele, very famously, I'm sure you've heard me talk about that, recorded Someone Like You here. Of course, it's a live piano vocal, hence the piano in there, and recorded through the U48 in there. And yeah, lots of Fray stuff, lots of Sarah Bareilles, lots of fun. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so here it is. Here is the beautiful Audient ASP 8024. Absolutely gorgeous. Not only is it new, it's new. I just used it today for the first time. It's an absolutely gorgeous console. So thank you, Audient. We have, from the top down, pretty comprehensive channel function here. We've got shelved top and bottom here, so fixed frequency there, but then we've got two parametric mid-range. It's really super comprehensive. We've got small fader, so you can pull up rough mixes on the small fader at the same time as printing from the large fader. So that's absolutely amazing. You can also flip it, of course, channel flip, so you do the reverse, so maybe you center tape from the small fader. And when I say center tape, I mean DAW, tape, you name it. So everything I would want in a large format console. It's also a beautiful piece of work of art, beautiful piece of wood here. Bus compression here. They've got this bass expand feature on here, which is really, really lovely. Very typical attack and release, kind of a very, dare I say, SSL bus compressor kind of feel, but with more low end. One of the problems with the SSL bus compressor, of course, was without a side chaining kind of function in it, you couldn't put a mass amount of low end in there because, of course, that would be the first thing to compress. So this bass expander is a really nice feature. So gorgeous console with the screen mounted here in the middle. If you keep looking, we also have a pair of SC307s. And this is our choice for this room. These are the Eves. They're absolutely gorgeous. They sound fantastic in here. We've got, of course, the new APB16. The Mac DSP APB16. I just demoed it for the first time with Colin. I actually don't know whether this video is going to come out before the product release or after. Who knows? So this might be the first time you see it or the second time you've seen it. Now you'll notice all of our IOs are the Apollo. So we have a pair of Apollo 16s, allowing us to get 24 in and 24 out. Obviously, this is 32 in and out, so we'll be able to send out to multi-effects and stuff. We've got the full range of UA plugins here, so when we do videos from here, you'll be able to see all of that stuff too. Our outboard is pretty comprehensive. Our outboard is the TubeTech here, absolutely gorgeous EQ. Very, very, very excited to have this. Both of these are gorgeous. Got a Kemper here. So even though we have a live room, it's amazing we have the Kemper. 1176, every studio should have one. An LA2A, a 160X, and a 165. Absolutely love this. And better still, the Tube Tech mic pre's. These are absolutely gorgeous on piano and what was used on the Adele song, Someone Like You. The Daking mic pre actually belongs to Glenn Fricker, who also uses the studio with us, and is beautiful. I mean, Daking's mic pre's are amazing. And of course, the Phoenix here is what I always used to track drums through here before we got the audio console. So it's a great unit. The DRS-A is wonderful for tracking drums, and just like these mic pre's sound absolutely fantastic. The Avion is our headphone system, and of course this is the power supply for the ASP console. So all rather lovely. Let's check out the live room. So quick shout out to Rev here. Big fans of Rev. This is the Generator 100P. Also the PV down here, the Invictive 120. We've got a lot of amp variations. We're going to do a Spitfire Studio tour soon, and you'll see we have a shizzle ton of gear in there as well. Anyway, let's move on. Let's go and check out the live rooms. So we have a couple of pianos here. We have this, which is an old Baldwin upright, very similar to my other upright, which sits over at Spitfire. And similarly, actually probably a little higher quality, probably not quite as destroyed as my one. But mine's a Hamilton, which is a student model. And this is quite an old piano. We've got tuning dates from here going back to, what's the oldest date you can see in there? It seems to be like once a year, so we'll go guess 67. So definitely somebody stopped putting the dates of the tuning in after that. It got up to 97 and they stopped tuning it. I do know it's been tuned several times since then because we've had it tuned, but they forgot writing it in. But it's pretty cool that it starts at A440 in 1967, and then it's been tuned 67, 68, 69 all the way through. That's really, I love that kind of stuff. So this is obviously the main focus, I think, for the live room, because this piano is absolutely gorgeous, this Yamaha, and this is the piano on Someone Like You. And we get many, many people coming here specifically to record piano on this piano. It's rather gorgeous. Okay, next up is a Yamaha drum kit. Which is here most of the time we can track with. We get amazing results. Glenn's used it a lot of people have used it. There is a mic locker in here with some of the usual suspects. There's also general storage, pair of NS10s, my Ludwig drum kit, one of my Ludwig drum kits here. There's my Ludwig snare. There's a pair of 1032s over there, Genelecs, spare pair, Pro Junior mics. There is a pair of PMCs under there, speakers, tons of mics, all the usual suspects. We've got 414s, Gefell, tons and tons of stuff. Yeah, so it's great. It's not a huge live room, but it's big enough. Oh, then there's a pair of matched, the 87s they sell as pairs. So that's rather wonderful. Yeah, so it's not a massive room, but you can see if we pan over the ceiling, that it's a relatively high ceiling for a small room. So does a fair job. There's another pair of NS10s up there in storage. It seems that, you know, when people ask where the NS10s have gone in my studio, well, there you can see. I just don't use them that much. I mean, you know, when Bob Clearmountain first started using them in the 80s, he bought them, I remember reading somewhere that he said he bought them because he wanted to have hi-fi speakers so he could hear what people were listening on. The reality is that people didn't buy them. They didn't really use them for hi-fi, but professionals started mixing on them. And, you know, you get this thing called NS10 ears, I'm sure you've heard that, where we get so used to the high mid-range, the 7 dB lift at 1.5K, it's borderline offensive. But once you're used to it and you know that a snare drum is supposed to have a certain crack to it and guitars have a certain edge to it, you can mix very effectively on it. But I think the reality is now is there's very few professionals I know that would mix on a pair of NS10s. I rarely ever see them. There are people that still use them because they know how they sound, and that's great. If you have only ever used NS10s your whole life, there's no reason for you to switch. But I think now, well, I just see now that young, up-and-coming, guys and girls are using so many other different kinds of speakers now. The market is so much more open than it used to be. But if that's what you know, then absolutely wonderful. But it's nice to have speakers now, even speakers that size now, which have far more extended low end, you know, rather than getting a speaker where you have to guess the low end or have a sub. You know, the technology has moved on so much further in the last 40 years that now even some, you know, even like the Callies have a better low end and they're $300 a pair. You know, there's so much options out there. Hence why all our NS10s going up into storage. There used to be a time when people would request your studio and insist that you had a pair of NS10s. I don't get that anymore. I usually get the opposite, and they want some of the other pairs of speakers that we have. As you know, we have Genelecs, we have Eves and Focals, PMCs, Unities, Cali, and then all of the smaller things like the iLouds and stuff. We have a massive variety of speakers. And when you're in a commercial-ish environment and people want to come in and mix and stuff, and they want to come in here to mix a record, you've got to be prepared. Last but no means least in the studio is we have this beautiful Neumann U48. This is a very, very old microphone. If my memory serves me well, it was 1953. I looked up the serial number. We're lucky we have an original tube and we also have a spare original tube for it. It still sounds absolutely phenomenal. It is the microphone that was used on Someone Like You. I used it on the whole of the last Aerosmith record. It was on the first 2 Frey albums. It's been on everything, Daniel Powter, Augustana, you name it. Pretty much every record I've made is either Yes U48 or my U47 up. And so you've probably heard us talk about this and using it on different records. So yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful microphone. So thanks ever so much for Pro Audio LA for helping set up everything. All of the cabling and everything is absolutely fantastic. Great work, Pro Audio LA.
So we have 1 through 8 here, we have 9 through 16 here, and we have 17 through 24 here. Some snakes don't have numbers, so you have to cut this open and then determine, you determine which one's which with the color that they have inside.
You see where it says multi-track bus outputs?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I had it connected.
Yeah, that's basically the buses.
Yeah,
because it doesn't have a direct out.
Yeah, so that's
you're able to
that's what's
route
here. That was B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have it on the one closer to the console or the one
I think
outside?
I had it in one through, but for some reason that's B, not A. I think. I don't remember.
We'll try it right now.
Yeah.
Well, I can turn on the oscillator and set it to one of the buses, and then we can see if we're getting signal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can basically be tracking 2 converters, and then you can have like a tape machine wired to like B.
Yeah. Or really anything, I guess. Yeah. But yeah. For example, let's say we're talking about like the outboard gear, like compressors and stuff like that, right? So I'd have all 1 through 8 to be nothing but inputs, and then 9 through 16 would be outputs, and then I was just, yeah, that's how I was doing it, because I couldn't think of it any other way. Or you could.
You're not gonna make it go male, female.
Yeah, or what you could do is you could have 1 through 8 here be outputs, and then you could have 49 through 56 be inputs, or the opposite, or whatever. You could do that too.
It's a half normal, all lines are through wires.
Yeah,
fall.
We need the fit LK jumpers or whatever in order to have normal.
Yeah, I would tend, at least for now, let's just do it the way he described.
I like doing two at a time. So it's something like this. You got your ground, your hot, and your cold. Now.
This is left,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So we're starting 1.
Yes.
This one. Okay. I'll get these.
Okay, so if you want to be able to patch into this stuff,
Uh-huh.
add the patch
Yes.
guy. then we have to take a different approach.
Oh, okay.
You just want certain channels from there, which is what we want to do. We want to do, right?
Yeah.
We want to make the outboard mic pre's accessible there.
Yes.
Not just from patch points in another room.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great because that'd be super helpful.
Yeah.
There it is. That's 2. That's 2 out of 100 channels.
So now, Richard, that gets all our inputs from that room. What about the booth? Is that what's connected to there?
No, so the booth gets connected from the live room.
Okay, so that's
We'll
already
just have it
connected.
permanently connected.
Okay, so we're going to take then the panel that we haven't done anything yet, which is this other 16 channel snake, right? And that's going to go into the patch bay over there.
Yes.
So Rich can do that next. And then we start hooking stuff up over here.
Just put it in there, kind of wiggle it a little bit. Grab these guys. That's it. That's all. Yep. Yep. So now we're just going to go through the through each channel and essentially do the same thing. That's pretty much it. Now we have to do this like 30 more times and we'll be done.
We've taken some house cable that was already here, and it already had some Switchcraft XLR males on it, and we just slapped some Neutrik XLR males on the channels that had some unbalanced RCA jumpers on it, etc. So we're reusing everything that we can to keep the costs down, reusing good cable, being ecologically responsible, and this cable's the perfect length to get us back around the back of this rack from the patch bay over there.
Hey guys, Eric here with Produce Like a Pro. I'm here with Pro Audio LA. We're here at Harmony Studios, and these guys just came in. It's 4 a.m. We just wrapped up with it. These guys basically just set up this studio from the console to the outboard gear, the interfaces, everything from the snakes. You guys resoldered the snakes, right? I mean, how many
I think we
XLRs?
built like probably about 20 DB25s right here on site. Yeah. We reused the existing cabling that was here, ripped out of these solder type patch bays. There's a huge pile of cabling in there. We basically looked for pieces that were long enough, and we were able to wire this whole console and this whole outboard rack of preamps, outboard gear, compressors, and converters, all with existing cabling. We just used a few extra XLRs that we brought with us, and the studio is now ready to rock. We tied these panels in the live room on this side into the first 24 channels of mic pre's into this board. And then we have another outboard rack of pre's over here, including the Phoenix 8-channel, a pair of Tube Tech, and a pair of Day King mic pre's. And those are accessible on the patch bay down the end of this Audient 8024 console. So from the live room, you can patch into the audience mic pre's, or you can patch into the outboard mic pre's. Then you can pick up those signals and feed them in here and mix them and just use it any way you want. Really, the patch bay is pretty comprehensive over there, and literally everything in this rack and everything in this board tied to these lines over here. Got it all integrated into a pair of Apollo 16s over here. So there's 32 ins, 32 outs, feeding the Aviom system for headphone mixes at various spots throughout the studio, so the talent can create their own submixes. We have these Eve Audio SC307s hooked up to the console. We got some tone to them a moment ago, and Alex got some signal through a microphone, so we know everything's working. A little bit about us. We are a unique audio company in that we're not commission sales guys, we're workflow experts. And we really started out working on patch bay designs and custom cabling. And over the years, that grew into selling equipment as well, because we would consult so heavily on the equipment that people would buy. We would recommend equipment that we thought fit people's workflow, people's skill set, people's space, and try to recommend the right gear so that they could have maximum creative possibilities, taking away all the bottlenecks in the workflow. I mean, one of the real reasons people don't make music a lot of the time is because their workflow has so many bottlenecks and so many pain points that it becomes a hassle of like, oh, I want to try this piece of gear, but I don't want to get under my table and move XLR cables around, et cetera, et cetera. So getting the workflow down with the patch bay and all the outputs and inputs accessible makes it possible that you can try any of your gear in any way. And that really opens the creative floodgates to allow people to just really get creative. And in an ideal world, the gear kind of just melts into the background, and you just let the music take over. At the end of the day, you want great performers playing their ass off in there and just being able to just capture that moment. And the gear should just help you do that, but you shouldn't be fumbling over it and moving wires around and trying to figure out what, how to do this stuff. That just takes away the whole vibe and really compromises the quality of the result. So we really believe that workflow is king. And unlike a lot of companies, we're really just focused on, one, sometimes just trying to help people get the best out of the gear they already have. Sometimes the problem isn't necessarily gear that you don't have, or the things you want end up being an excuse for not making music today. And the music gods want music. Yeah. So they want us making music, creating music. And sadly, a lot of people that got into this stuff wanting to make music have devolved into procrastinators and people that research and talk about making music, but they don't actually make music. So nice gear is great, but nothing beats a good song, an inspiring performance, some good lyrics, good musicianship, and that's really the key. And so that's sort of what I think sets us apart from a lot of companies, is that we're not focused on selling a bunch of stuff to people. We're focused on how do we remove the bottlenecks between you being productive in your creative process and really getting some stuff done, instead of being a person that is just starting a million things and never quite finishes, and all of a sudden years go by, the music gods get upset. So that's kind of our strategy towards things, is let's optimize workflows. Let's help people get the most out of what they've got going on now. And if you're going to buy more stuff, you're going to get more stuff. Buy the right things the right time. There's a lot of good stuff on the market, and a lot of the times the choices come down to the connectivity or the features of one thing versus another. And a lot of people get misguided, or they get carried away thinking they want this or that or the other thing, but it turns out that doesn't really integrate well with the rest of their setup. So we're kind of the guys that can look at, someone will say, hey, I got this quote from, one of your competitors, and what can you do on this stuff? And you look at the list and you say to yourself, why are these two items being recommended with each other? They're not really complementary. You know, I've seen things as absurd as 16-channel summing mixers being sold to people with 2-channel interfaces. We like to just kind of like slow down when people want stuff and say, hey, what are you doing? What are your pain points? What's not working for you? And oftentimes it turns out that the solution is really different than where the conversation started. So that's how we like to forge our relationship with our clients. It's more like a partnership to help people make better music more easily and have more fun doing it. Creative process, workflow. Workflow's king.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, you could definitely tell you guys are very passionate in what you're doing from just the conversation, the side conversations we were having while you guys were working. And then there was a lot of questions going around the room on the gear that's here, gear that we've been reading about. And you guys are very knowledgeable. Like, you can tell that you guys have a passion for this because you guys were giving answers and really helping us all out. Especially me. I had some questions on some interfaces I've been looking at. I mean, this was definitely a great experience seeing you guys, your workflow, the way you guys are doing this, and just that you guys not just talk the talk, but you guys walk the walk. You guys know what it is that you're doing.
We're all musicians, we're all engineers, we're all songwriters, so the connection that's fundamental to all of us in this industry, right, is a love for music. So that's where we come from, and anytime we see people with their focus in a place that takes them away from actually making music, we try to refocus that. You know, I literally talk clients out of spending money on gear because it's like, if you buy too many toys at once, you'll never master them. You know, buy something, really dig into it, get really good with it, or heck, just get better with something that you already own. You know, whether that's learning gain staging a little bit better, whether that's understanding signal flow a little bit better, whether that's engineering techniques or mixing techniques or mic techniques. Often those are the things that make the biggest difference. But it's easy to get carried away with all these toys and all these things that we want. But the moment you let those things become an excuse for actually making music, you'll go from being prolific to zero output, you know, just like that. So you have to, like everything, you gotta have a balance, and it's okay to want things. It's okay to research stuff in moderation. Personally, we like it when people kind of just stop researching and trust us to say, hey, here's my situation. Here's what I'm not liking about my workflow. Here's the music I like. Here's what I would like to emulate. And we kind of try to figure out, based on that information, what direction to point someone in. And oftentimes that'll be a phase plan. You might not have all the money to do all the things you want, but if you don't know what phase 3 is going to look like, you're going to take 1 step forward, 2 steps back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So if you've got a plan, you work with people like us, put a phase plan together, and 3 months we're doing this, go make some music. 6 months we'll do this, and you'll just make sure you don't spend good money after bad, because that'll drive people crazy.
Pretty much what we did today is what pretty much we do in every install. We come, we get here, we kind of just analyze what we have, what cables we have, what we need, stuff like that. We kind of walk around, try to get a feel for, if we haven't talked about workflow, we try to get a feel for the workflow. Yeah. It's because a lot of times we kind of have to work with what we have. Yeah. So we have to talk with the customer, we have to talk with our client and see, hey, maybe this is something that we were planning for, but now that we're here, maybe we could do this. So we're always looking for the better solution. And sometimes, it might be like, even through emails and phone calls, we might have one solution, but once we arrive, if we find something better, then we always trying to optimize. So what we came here today, was pretty straightforward. We came in here, we found some cables, we modified all the cables that we could, and we just connected them, and that's it. It's pretty straightforward, pretty I guess.
It's a lot going on for me, but pretty straightforward for you guys. That's pretty crazy.
So like Yusuf and Jason say, we were here, we wired the 8024, and we put the outboard gear that we have over here on the patch bay, so we're able to have maximum flexibility. This patch bay is a little bit different than what we might be used to, but because all the wiring goes from left to right, which can be kind of like reading a book, but it's definitely very flexible, and you have all the inputs and outputs. You have molds built into it. You have insert points, so a lot of flexibility, a lot that you can do with it. So had fun wiring this, and can't wait till we hear some of the music that Gear Gods and Glenn and Warren will be creating here.
Yeah, check us out on social media, Pro Audio LA, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is. It's all Pro Audio LA, P-R-O-A-U-D-I-O L-A, one word. We're based here in Glendale, California, but we travel. Richard right here is flying to Baltimore tomorrow to go do some tech support for a guy that's losing his mind with his patch bay, his Flock Audio patch bay. He's got some noise. Richard's going to go over there, sort him out. 24 hours. He's going to fly in on the red eye, do it for 6 hours, fix his problem, and leave 5 hours later and come home.
So I hope you enjoyed the studio tour with all of the setup stuff, which is pretty complicated. Thank you ever so much for Glenn and Alex and Matt, who helped with all the setup. And of course, Eric, who's now holding this camera, came down and helped as well. I believe Christian and Ezekiel also helped with the setup. I hope you enjoyed all of that footage. Thank you ever so much for watching the video, and have a marvelous time recording and mixing.